early returns have been pretty good for the converted relievers. It's a growing trend. Hey, you don't want to be a relief pitcher anymore. Go get starter money in free agency. Or if you're Garrett Crochet, just say, I'm done with relieving. I'm committing myself this offseason to be a starter and win not only a job, but the opening day job in camp. There's 3 notable names that have done really well. And then there's AJ Puck, who we talked about earlier, who has not fared as well. But the guys we're looking at here is Garrett Crochet, and then 2 guys that you could have argued outside of Josh Hader were maybe the second and third best reliever on the market this go around in Jordan Hicks and Reynaldo Lopez, but they each sign in situations that allows them to start. So for Hicks, first time out, 5 innings pitched, did not allow a run, struck out 6, 1 walk, 3 hits allowed. That was against the Padres. For Lopez, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 4 hits allowed, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts against his former team, the White Sox. Of those 2 guys, who interests you more throughout this season as being a long-term fixture, not just a couple starts in April and May, but someone that will be in their rotation for the whole year?
Man, that one's hard because I think both these guys have so much in common and still have such a big upside. I actually think Reynaldo Lopez is that one that has more potential to stick around in the rotation over the course of a full season. One of the things with Jordan Hicks, obviously the deal that he signed, it was to be a starter, right? But we also know the Giants, they've got a lot of depth. Blake Snell's going to be coming back from the IL. They've got several other guys. Robbie Ray, of course, different situation where he's hurt, but he's going to get back into that rotation. They do have a lot more depth. And so I can see if everyone's clicking on all cylinders for the Giants, Hicks could be that guy that ends up going back to the bullpen and being a highly valued reliever. Does that mean, that the next 3 years of this deal, he's going to be a reliever? No, but I just think that this year, under these circumstances, and with Chris Sale in the rotation with Reynaldo Lopez, don't know how he's going to end up lasting if he's going to be healthy. So they're going to need him in that rotation. I really think Lopez has a better shot at sticking, and I think it just has more to do with the team situation than the individual himself.
It's pretty interesting because I would have pointed to the Braves' depth as far as still having Bryce Elder they can call on and other guys in the minor leagues. But at the same time, Max Fried has missed some time. He missed a lot of time last year. Chris Sale, like you mentioned. And if Lopez can continue doing what he's done, and I think he also has, I could be mistaken, but it feels like he has a little bit more of an arsenal, where Hicks, it's very much looking like a relief pitcher in the rotation, which is fine when you have 102-mile-per-hour sinkers that you can drop. But I do kind of see, I think you swayed me a little bit. I think before we started, I would have said that Hicks would stick because I look at that Giants rotation and I see Snell and Webb atop it, and I'm imagining, Hicks being a number 3, and he very well could be. But, Robbie Ray is a guy that's kind of out of sight, out of mind. I could see a second half scenario also with the big innings jump where you're right. Maybe the Giants say down the stretch, you know what, we can have you, do 3 inning spurts and be this like super closer that can come in multiple times a week for us and really help us. Maybe it does make sense to convert him back. Whereas Lopez, you're right. Maybe the Braves' depth, as much as it seems like they have a lot of it, there are some real injury concerns atop that rotation.
Sure. You also have Alex Cobb as another one of those guys coming back this season for the Giants. Tristan Beck, who was, penciled in for the rotation early on in the year. A couple, really good pitching prospects, Carson Wisenhunt. So like there are those factors too of saying, hey, let's go with the hot hand. And, if Hicks is just, mediocre, then going back to that bullpen where, man, just being that flamethrower is going to play up, even that much more. So again, it's more situational based than it is about the individual himself. But again, if Hicks is lights out, you're not going to mess with that at all.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, the guy's sporting a sub-3 ERA and it's July. And I can say, you know what? We're going to take our second or third best starter out of the rotation. He'll keep that spot. It's the fact that there could be some variability where maybe he does get blown up a little bit, or maybe he does get tired as the season wears on. It is a big, big ask for him, especially for a guy that does have some injuries in his past. I think the best story of the season when it comes to the converted relievers has to be Garrett Crochet, though. 2 starts now. First one against Detroit, which seems like a pretty improved and sneaky good lineup. And then he goes 7 against the Braves and only gives up 1 run. He's got 13 innings pitched in his first 2 starts, the first being, of course, opening day. 16 strikeouts to 1 walk. And he's looking, it's almost like Cole Reagan's last year, where it's wait, who is this guy? And then you watch a pitch, you're like, okay, that's ace stuff coming from the left side. It's been pretty amazing to watch Crochet early in this season.
Yeah, he's been a great story for a kid that was drafted in 2020 during the pandemic and then ends up making his debut weeks later, right? Making that big jump from the University of Tennessee to the White Sox. Has the injury, it cost him a season, ultimately just a bullpen guy, and the White Sox have been very irrelevant. So he's just not a name that you would really know unless you're a true hardcore. But you're right. I think that's a great story for him to go out there, have that success, kind of following a similar mold to a guy that the White Sox, were able to help develop in the past, like Chris Sale, because those have been the comparisons all along. And for him to finally get that opportunity now, and then to be so successful on top of that, I think is wonderful. So, being able to do this at 24 years old in his age 25 season, this really could be the start of, the next young ace. Like it's crazy that he has all this service time, but yet this is really the first time he's getting an opportunity to do it in a big spot. So Garrett Crochet definitely has to be a name for people to really keep an eye on throughout the season.
And I mean, you can't even compare him to the other two as far as sticking in a rotation. He's there. I mean, the White Sox, he's penciled in every 5th day until, an injury pops up, because that rotation is very thin. They obviously just signed Mike Clevenger to give them another veteran arm to slot in, but Crochet is going to be atop that rotation all season. I'm looking now to check free agent in 2027. So they still got him for 24, 25, 26, 3 years of Crochet. A guy that, could be the potential ace of the future. Maybe they decide to extend him depending on how this season goes. Still only 24 years old. So I think for a White Sox team, we had a really good article by Elijah Evans that went up today, looking at 5 takeaways, five things that would determine success for the White Sox this season. And it's a lot of trying to find these singular stories of guys that can be fixtures and can be pieces for you, because we know the White Sox aren't going to be contending this year. And there's some players like Eloy Jimenez, Yoel Makata, that you're trying to see bounce back to maybe sell. And someone like Crochet, it's all right. Can we find a fixture? It feels like that could, by season's end, still be the best thing about this season for the White Sox. And we saw it on opening day.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, and this is even true now, I would never go out to the ballpark because of an opposing position player. There'd be very, very rarely with an opposing pitching player, an opposing position player, get me out of the house to go to the ballpark. It was always the starting pitcher, right? That was always the guy that something electric can happen. So for Garrett Crochet being there, once every 5 days, I think that can be huge for the White Sox to get through what will probably be, another 100 loss season, unless, Steve, Garrett Crochet can have like a Steve Carlton season, and maybe be in the Cy Young Award conversation. And they could still lose 100 games like the Phils did that year, but even still, that's nice that the White Sox can watch Luis Robert Jr. and Garrett Crochet once every 5 days. They deserve at least that much for everything that they've had to suffer through the last few years.
Absolutely. I'm honestly wondering, now that you said the Cy Young, I'm like, I wonder what odds you could have got on Garrett Crochet before opening day and how much that has changed in a week, because I'm sure it's the biggest impact in odds when it comes to any of these futures. I don't even know if he'd even be on the board before the season, but he's probably on the board now. I mean, just a great start for him and a really cool story to close off our episode with today here. Go ahead.
I was going to say, he was so far off the board that he was on the Reliever of the Year award standings. Like, that's how far off the Cy Young Award, ballot he was, so to speak, for your odds. So, yeah, he's got to be now on the ballot because he's just been so dominant, very electric.
And you know what? Probably a future topic for us on who's better. Lefties in the American League now, with the Skubal in Detroit, Reagan's in Kansas City, Crochet, all in that division too. It's pretty rare that you see a division where it's all sort of headlined by a lefty ace. But that's a pretty fun conversation that we'll have at a later date here, because those are three arms that I think a lot of people are really going to be tuning in on. Like you said, I mean, it's kind of important appointment television now when you see someone that has that great of stuff to go out there and paint, and then you see them on Pitching Ninja with all the great clips that they can pull from these starts. Really fun to watch these lefties sort of pop up out of nowhere and really just provide a huge lift to their franchises.
Yeah, it's just like a left-handed swing just feels, more exotic. And it's really how much of that is just the fact that we don't see that as often. Same, I think, is true for, a left-handed starter. So definitely a future topic for another day. If there's any topics you want to hear from, obviously you can leave a comment in the chat on YouTube. We're also over on X at Who's Better BB. So let us know there, and we'll definitely have to get at it at a future episode this weekend.
For sure. We appreciate all of you who've been watching on the Just Baseball Twitter feed. We're going to go live for all of our shows moving forward. We're going to be doing Wednesday records, Sundays, probably around this time. And then if you want to watch any of the individual clips that we have, you just came in late and you missed the first part of the show, we'll be breaking up these videos and posting it on our Who's Better YouTube channel throughout the week. So you can see just kind of a bite-sized topic, as you can maybe watch all the different things that we talk about for each week. So,
and I'm not offended, right? If you say, I don't care about Tyler Neal or Michael Conforto, I just want to watch my Pirates. That's fine. Go ahead and just watch that clip. We are not offended one bit.
We appreciate the eyeballs wherever we get them, however we get them. So again, follow us. Tell them again where to follow us on Twitter there.
At Who's Better BB.
And you can find our personals on the side there of the screen. Find Who's Better Baseball on YouTube. And we will be back for a show on Sunday after the end of this week's slate of games here.